I want to bring in Michael Shellenberger, an investigative journalist who has been digging into past UFO whistleblowers who have been silenced by the government. We're going to get into that with you in a second, Michael. I've got so much to cover with you. You've got so many new exclusive details on all of this. I want to start, though, with this new account from a pilot, from a military pilot, F-18, saw something. Tell us what you know.
Yeah, well, so what we're hearing is that on February 21st of this year, an Air Force pilot had their radar and electronics malfunction at the very moment that they encountered a very large UAP that the person that gave us this information said was not a UAP that you would want to encounter, meaning that it was frightening to the pilot. The radar also showed that there were multiple UAPs in the vicinity. This is an extraordinary account. As far as I know, we're the only people that are reporting on this incident. I think it's fair to say that it's not the only incident like this. Obviously, tomorrow we're going to hear from David Fravor, who reports on the famous Tic Tac incident. But I think it gives you a sense of just how many incidents there have been that have not been reported and that have been kept secret by the U.S. military. And I think it's time for the secrecy to come to an end. I think that's one of the big takeaways here, is that whether or not you think UAPs represent some sort of alien or non-human intelligence, or whether it's just some more earthly explanation, I think the American people deserve some answers. We live in a democracy. Civilians control our military, not the other way around. And I think it's time to get some answers and put an end to this, I think, overly secretive business around UAPs that, as you mentioned, has been going on for at least 75 years.
Yeah, and I know you have a new article coming out tomorrow that details the past 75 years, the threats. We're going to get to that. It's interesting, too, your new reporting about this F-18 pilot, yet another pilot within the military who saw something like this, even the equipment shutting down. It's just fascinating. I want to ask you about the hearings tomorrow, though, because you're well-sourced on that, too. Congressman Burchett initially told me that they were expecting 6 witnesses. I think he said half a dozen. We know that there are 3 witnesses tomorrow. Is there a possibility that we could actually end up seeing more?
Yes, our sources say that there could be an additional 3 witnesses. I do hasten to add, though, this is an area where there's been so much speculation, and it's a little frustrating as a reporter that's interested in the facts. I always stress that I try to report on what I've been told. These things are not easy to verify, so we could end up with just 3 witnesses tomorrow, or we could end up with as many as 6. You may also know there was just recently, a couple hours ago, Congressman Burchett announced that he would not be chairing the hearing with Congressperson Luna, that it would instead be chaired by Congressperson Garcia. Now, Garcia had said 5 days ago that he would be chairing the hearing, but it appears that even who would be in charge of the hearing had not been decided until just a few hours ago. So I think it's a very dynamic situation. I think the hearing tomorrow is going to be the biggest story of the day tomorrow, unless something unforeseen happens. The intensity of the interest in this issue, I've never seen it before. Like many Americans, I've followed this issue since I was a boy for many decades. It's always been in the shadows, but it's now getting a mainstream hearing. I think it's about time. And I do think many people like myself are going to be watching the hearings live to see whether there are new people coming forward, and whether we're able to get any new information, or whether we're just going to be told the same things that we've been told for several years now.
Let me ask you this, Michael. I mean, the fact that there could possibly be 3 more witnesses that didn't want to be named is not that surprising when you think about the fact that there's a fear to come forward. If the names come out early, they could, be retaliated against. They could be threatened by higher-ups not to speak. I mean, this has happened before. You let me get a look at your article that you're publishing tomorrow, this very detailed look back at the last 75 years and all of these instances where people have been threatened, even threatened with death, you report.
Well, that's right. It's very shocking. And I should say that, there's some people that don't think this is an important issue. There's people that think that this is either a distraction at best or some kind of disinformation campaign at worst. What I would point out, though, is that we have 75 years now of many UAP witnesses and whistleblowers saying they have reporting that they had been threatened with death by U.S. military or other U.S. government officials. First of all, I think it's worth pointing out it's illegal to threaten somebody with death. It's a felony offense. Therefore, accusing somebody of threatening you is a serious accusation. And the people that are making these allegations are very serious people. These are credible people. They're people not just in the United States, but around the world. It's also people, it's, former Marines, former soldiers, people in government, people outside of government. There's a set of very suspicious patterns of the descriptions that they give, including being told, for example, that you didn't see what you think you saw. That's something that is often repeated, but very scary threats being made. And of course, it's very difficult to verify this.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.